It's November 1872. You're a sailor in New York Harbor, and you've just signed onto a ship called the Mary Celeste. She's a solid merchant brig, carrying 1,700 barrels of alcohol to Italy. The pay is fair, the captain is respected, and the voyage should be routine. You have no way of knowing that in a few weeks, this ship will be found drifting in the middle of the Atlantic, perfectly intact and completely empty, and that you and everyone aboard will simply be gone. The captain is a man named Benjamin Briggs, experienced, careful, religious, not a reckless man. And this voyage, he's brought his family, his wife Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia. There's a crew of 7, all considered steady, capable men. This is not a ship of desperate criminals. It's a floating home. That detail matters, because whatever happens next happens to ordinary people who had every reason to live. You set sail on November 7th. The cargo beneath your feet is denatured alcohol, not for drinking industrial stuff, packed in barrels in the hold. The weather in the North Atlantic that month is rough. You work the rigging in cold spray, the ship pitching under gray skies. But the Mary Celeste handles it. Nothing about the early voyage is unusual. The captain keeps his log. Sarah plays a small melodeon organ in the cabin in the evenings. Little Sophia is underfoot. Life at sea, ordinary and hard. Then, somewhere out in the open ocean, roughly halfway to Europe, something happens. And this is where your story ends. Because no one, not then, not now, 150 years later, knows what came next. Everything after this moment is a question with no answer. So let's step off the ship and become the people who found her. It's December 5th, 1872. Another ship, the Dei Gratia, is crossing the same stretch of ocean between the Azores and Portugal. Her crew spots a vessel in the distance, moving strangely. Sails set, but yawing, drifting, no clear course. They watch it for 2 hours. No one waves. No one answers signals. Something is wrong. So they send a small boarding party across the water to check. They climb aboard the Mary Celeste. And what they find makes no sense. The ship is in good condition. She's seaworthy. She's still floating well. The cargo is almost entirely intact. All 1,700 barrels still in the hold. There's 6 months' worth of food and fresh water aboard. The crew's personal belongings are still there. Clothing, pipes, valuables, sailors' oilskin boots. Sarah's melodeon is still in the cabin. There is no sign of violence anywhere. No blood, no damage, no evidence of a struggle or a fight. But there is not a single living soul on board. The captain is gone. His wife is gone. Their 2-year-old daughter is gone. All 7 crew members are gone. 10 people vanished from a ship in the middle of the ocean, leaving almost everything behind. And then the boarding party starts noticing the details. The small, strange details that have haunted this case ever since. The ship's single lifeboat is missing. And it doesn't look like it was torn away. It looks like it was deliberately launched. A rope was found trailing from the ship into the water behind her, frayed at the end. The last entry in the captain's log was from 10 days earlier, and it was completely normal. No warning, no distress, no final message. The ship's navigation instruments and papers were gone, as if someone grabbed them on the way out. There was some water in the hold, more than usual, but not nearly enough to sink her. One hatch cover was found off and lying upside down on the deck. Put it together, and a picture forms, but not a clear one. It looks like the 10 people aboard didn't panic randomly. It looks like they made a deliberate choice to get into that one small lifeboat and leave a perfectly good ship in the middle of the Atlantic, which is insane. Because leaving a large floating ship for a tiny open boat, far from any land, is almost always a death sentence. Sailors know that. Captain Briggs knew that. So what would make an experienced captain do the one thing you're never supposed to do? That is the question. And over 150 years, people have tried to answer it. Theory 1. The alcohol. Remember the cargo. 1,700 barrels of alcohol in the hold. When they were unloaded later, 9 of them were found empty. One idea is that the alcohol leaked, filled the hold with invisible fumes, and either a small explosion or just the terrifying smell and a sudden whump of vapor convinced Briggs the whole ship was about to blow. In a panic, he orders everyone into the lifeboat, tied to the ship by a rope, planning to wait at a safe distance until the danger passed, and then the rope snaps. The ship sails on without them, and they're left in a tiny boat in the open ocean. It fits a lot of the clues, but it's never been proven. Theory 2. A waterspout, an ocean tornado. A sudden waterspout could explain the water in the hold, the disturbed instruments, and a captain's snap decision to abandon ship, believing she was going down. Theory 3. A seaquake, an underwater tremor, violently shaking the ship and terrifying everyone aboard. Theory 4. A problem with the ship's chronometer made Briggs think he was much closer to dangerous rocks than he was, so he abandoned ship to avoid a wreck that wasn't really there. And then there are the darker theories. Mutiny, the crew turning on the captain, piracy, an attack at sea. But both fall apart on one fact. Nothing was stolen. The cargo, the valuables, the belongings, all still there. Pirates don't leave the treasure. And there was no blood, no sign of any fight. Whatever emptied this ship, it wasn't robbery, and it doesn't look like murder. Here's what makes it unbearable. Every theory explains some of the clues. Not one explains all of them. The alcohol theory, the water spout, the chronometer, the seaquake, each has a hole. And the people who could tell us the truth climbed into a small boat one day in 1872 and were never seen again. No bodies were ever found. No lifeboat was ever recovered. No survivor ever surfaced to tell the story. 10 people stepped off a perfectly good ship into the Atlantic and simply ended. The Mary Celeste herself sailed on for another 12 years under new owners, considered by many sailors to be cursed. She finally met her end when a captain deliberately wrecked her in an insurance scam. But the mystery of that empty ship, found drifting with the food still in the cupboards and the bed still made, and not one soul aboard, has never been solved. It's become the most famous ghost ship in history, not because of what was found on board, but because of what wasn't. So think about it. You signed onto a routine voyage, a steady captain, his wife, his little girl, a good crew, calm cargo, fair pay, and somewhere out on the water, all 10 of you made a choice, or had a choice forced on you, that no one has ever understood. You left a ship that would have saved your life. So tell me, what do you think happened out there? The fumes? A wave? Something else entirely? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this mystery, drop a like. It really helps the channel. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And your next story is already waiting on screen right now. Go watch it. I'll see you there.